in eastern central Florida at the Yarborough Cattle Ranch, and J.K. Yarborough is here with me today, and we're having a lot of fun. I'm learning a lot about cows and about pastures and about acreage, and you were saying that there's 1,700 acres here.
Correct, yeah. We operate off of 1,700 acres, and the vast majority of that is going to be between pasture and woodlands. And so the pasture aspect of it is what we really try to focus on, because if you want to be a good beef producer, since these animals, their main diet is consisting of forage, you got to be a good forage producer.
And that's why you need all the land.
Exactly.
So can you explain a little bit about, what forage is versus grass versus weeds versus, what do they eat?
Sure, exactly. So forage is going to be grass species usually that we are growing for the purposes of nutrition for these animals.
Oh.
And so, like all things in life, there's a season when it comes to forages and production. So we have cool season forages, we have warm season forages. We have legume species, we have browse species, a bunch of different things that we can plant or grow for the purposes of nutrition for these animals.
So how many different ones do we have just in this area?
So this area we use as our cool season forage area to grow a cool season forage. So in the wintertime, our warm season species, they don't produce as much because it's cool season, they just don't grow as well. But we have species that we can plant that do grow during that time period. That way we're able to give them some nutrition still during the winter period.
Okay,
and so
they move around from zone to zone?
Exactly,
okay.
Yeah. So we can see one of the species we grow for our cool season here. So if you look down here, we can kind of see a couple of things. We can see that this leafy growth right here is going to be our ryegrass species. So our annual ryegrass we grow for the purposes of nutrition. It grows well in the cool time, and it's very high in nutrition as well. So we actually have to limit how much the animals eat because they can only absorb so much nutrition, but they'll just keep on eating. So we have to try to limit how much they eat during the cool season.
How do you do that?
Good question. There's a couple of ways you can do it. One way that we do it is with this timed grazing period. So we let them in when we get here, so roughly between 9 o'clock or so. We'll let them in, they'll graze till just after lunch, and then we'll come back out here and we'll run them back out. And then
That's how I like to eat too. I don't know, but
yeah,
I'm a grazer.
Yeah. So just repeat that cycle, so that way they're not just consuming so much nutrition and then it's just all coming out the other end, kind of being wasteful at that point.
So I noticed that they've sort of eaten around this section. This grass is a lot higher.
Exactly. So there's a couple of reasons why this grass is a little bit higher. One of the reasons, as you can see, if you look down in here, we actually have cow manure, a cow patty that's down in here. And that is a source of nutrition for the soil and for the grass.
That makes sense.
So there's a little bit more nutrition around it, so the grass around it grows a little bit more. Also, we have studies that show that the animals prefer not to eat the grass right on their feces. And so you can see they've grazed all the way around it, eating all that grass right around it.
That's so crazy, because I look at this and I think you had a riding lawnmower, but it's how many cows do you have out here?
So in this herd we have about 150.
Wow, so they are your lawnmowers.
So yeah, exactly. That's the purpose of, if you have forage, you have nutrition. So we try not to, mow too much, because that's nutrition that could go to the animals. So we want to make sure we're utilizing them properly and making sure they're grazing everything they can.
And what are the other, weeds or things that they maybe prefer to eat?
Yeah, so whenever we go to plant some pasture or an annual pasture or a plot or something like that, we'll use grass species because that's going to be a good bulk of their forage and nutrition. But we also can try to plant some legume species. So legumes are plants that are able to take nitrogen from the atmosphere and transfix it with a symbiotic relationship with some bacteria in the soil, and take that nitrogen from the atmosphere and put it into the soil for their use and for other plants to use. So nitrogen is the element of growth, essentially. So if a lot of people who have lawns and things, they know that when they apply nitrogen, the grass is going to grow. Same thing applies in our pastures. When we apply nitrogen, the grass is going to grow. So in an effort to try to maybe combat with some fertilizer prices or fertilizer application, you can grow some legume species. They're going to take that nitrogen from the atmosphere, put it into the soil. So we try to plant some of those whenever we establish a new pasture as well.
And what about, what is it, clover?
So yeah, clovers are a good example of some legume species.
Okay.
Commonly we use white clover in Florida because it does well enough on some more wet soils, so that hold moisture, but also they do well in more acidic soils, which is what we really have here in Florida.
Well, city slickers like myself didn't know that there was so much to grass and grazing and raising cattle. So JK, thank you so much for teaching me all about it.
You're very welcome, Michelle.